All right, so it's a new year, so what do you have for the YouTube people this year?
Well, I was trying to remember some of the things that we used to do on New Year's Eve, and some of the things I remember going down to the camp, and all the men would play poker, and the women would play triple E or pinochle or something like that, and we didn't drink a lot. We had the guys had beer, but we had a lot of fun. Some of the best fun we ever had was when we had that camp out there in Little Kansas, and it belonged to Joe and his brothers and a couple cousins, and we would go down there, and that's where we went to hunt too. I used to have a lot of fun hunting with the guys, and I was the only one of the women that went hunting, but I enjoyed it anyhow because I like to be out in the woods. I'm a nature lover. Like everything about nature but snakes. I hate snakes. and and I can remember a long time ago when Nathan and I would spend New Year's Eve alone after my husband died. So he was just a little fellow, probably five, maybe 4 or 5, because he was only 2 when Joe died. But anyhow, we made tapes and we'd sing some songs and talk on these. We still have them, but we never play them anymore. And it was kind of lonely when we quit going down to the camp, and after my husband died. But I remember we went down to Wilda and Charlie.
Oops.
They lived down the highway one New Year's Eve, and it got slippery while we were there. And Joe fell, and that was your grandpapa. And he had a bottle in his hand, and he said, well, at least I didn't break the bottle. Everybody got a kick out of that. And I can't remember what was in the bottle, but it was some kind of booze, I guess. And this is the 3rd of January, 2015,
yeah.
today. And I was born in 1925, so you know what that makes me this year. And I feel like I'm not getting old, I am old. I guess if I ever move again, it'll be in a nursing home. My sister's in a nursing home. My last sister. I think I mentioned this before. I used to have 5 brothers and 5 sisters. Now I have 1 sister. And what we do here at the apartments on snowy days, put puzzles together. So that's why Nathan and his mom bought me puzzles for Christmas, and Linda, she brought me some puzzles, and this is how we.
There's a couple of them.
So Nathan knew that I liked Norman Rockwell, and he brought me these. They're 1,000 pieces each, and they were really more easy, but we got them. We got them done. I've got a cough because I had bronchitis, and Gwen and Wayne had to take me to the doctor the day before Christmas, and then on the Saturday after Christmas, we went over to Ike come and got me and Aunt Patty, and we went over to Linda's for ham pot pie. And I was feeling much better, but it still left me with a cough. I got this letter in the mail telling me what was wrong with me, and I have no idea what it said because I didn't know what the words mean. I think it means I have chronic bronchitis. I had it last year. Last year I had the flu along with it. So that's what it is when you get old. You sit around and do puzzles and talk about your aches and pains. And I know I've had a couple friends that's all they do, moan and whine about all their aches and pains. don't ever get on the phone with somebody like that, a hypochondriac. You'll be sorry. I had a friend call me one time. She talked and talked. I wasn't bad, so I just lay there with the phone in my hand, and I got awake, and there was my phone beside me in the bed. I wonder what she thought when she kept talking, and then I felt that I never answered her. Maybe she didn't know the difference I didn't know. Sometimes I say, "Here, Nathan, you take the phone and say, no. All you have to do is say, yes, I had a couple friends like that, and they were friends, but sometimes they were a little, I don't know what the word is.
Verbose.
Get on your nerves, in other words. That's when I decided to get caller ID on my phone, so I don't have to answer anybody if I'm not ready for that kind of thing today. I'm not. When you answer them, it's going to take at least an hour or so, so you just don't answer them. And
I think considering the target demographic of YouTube, we should explain there was a time in history when your phone didn't tell you who was calling.
yes, and then I always answered them. Oh no, that's why I got caller ID. Linda was there one day when the phone rang, and I went, oh no, who is it now? And she said, Mom, you need caller ID. So she got me caller ID, and actually they pay for it. But and now that I moved down here where it's long distance, those people don't call me anymore. And today the weather is kind of bad outside. It's sleeting and the roads are a little slippery. I was worried about Nathan coming down the road. And he said the main highways are pretty bare, but our parking lot out here was slippery, and they put salt on it. So I sit here and I feed the birds, so I watch out the window. And guess what? This morning there was a couple of red squirrels and a robin. We have robins around here that don't go south. I don't know if they forget to go south but I've heard before that some robins don't go south, but I never saw any until I moved down here. And I remember when I first moved here, one of the ladies said, there's a robin out there, and it was the middle of the winter, and I thought, nah, it's not a robin, but it was. I went out and looked. So I'm the only one that feeds the birds here, but there's one lady that bought me some bird feed. I appreciate that. And I've always fed the birds in the wintertime. My mother did too. And my kids do. Both of my kids do. Over where Linda lives, she lives near State College, but she has a house up in the woods. This is my oldest daughter. And we were there for Thanksgiving, and somebody said, look, there's a flock of turkeys out there. And there was, I don't know, maybe a dozen turkeys. And we watched a while, after a while, a flock of deer came down. There was a lot of deer. And the deer and the turkeys were intermingling with one another. And that was a thrill to see, too. Linda feeds the birds. She don't put any garbage out there because they have bears. They can't feed the bears. One time, Ike was sitting, I guess Linda had gone to bed around, it got pretty late at night. He was sitting in the living room watching television, and the doorbell rang. And he looked out, here was a bear, and pushed down their doorbell. And he said, I just turned all the lights off and went to bed. Wasn't letting any bear come in. So there are bears that live up in the woods where they live. But they try not to feed them because they don't want them to hang around there. So I got to see my two little great-grandsons over the holidays. And I hate to say this, but they were unreal characters. I just love those little buggers. But what would you expect from a 1-year-old is almost 2, and a 3-year-old is almost 4. So you can imagine what that's like. Corbin, of course, that was my maiden name, and that's my great grandson's first name, Corbin. So that's what they get for calling him Corbin. He's an ornery little bugger.
What's some stuff that you want to see happen in 2015?
Well, the most important thing in the would be for peace. I pray for peace all the time. Peace in Afghanistan, peace in the Middle East, peace between people. It makes me sad when I know there's families that don't talk to one another. And it's what Jesus came to tell us. That and other things, but to love one another, be ye kind one to another, tender-hearted and forgiving one another. So I'm glad that my family all gets along with one another. And what else would I like to see? Well, I got a little raise on my Social Security. That was something nice. But then everything goes up. Our cable goes up. Everything. Every time you get a little raise, everything goes up, so you can't get ahead. Since I moved here to these apartments, I don't need a lot of money. Because you pay according to your income. So what would I like to see happen in the new year? I would like to see everybody get along together and end all wars. And I'd like to see peace on earth. I think that's the most. And what my advice would be for everybody, especially young people, bring your children up in the church. Bring them up knowing about Jesus. And at least my little great-grandson knows how to say the blessing before we eat. And he told me on the phone, he said, I'm the prayer leader at preschool, and I thought, well, that's nice. So his mother's a Catholic, and his daddy, well, he was brought up at Lutheran, but they're nice people, good people. And one thing that Corey and Tina, the parents of my little great-grandson, they don't believe in paddling kids. And Melinda never did either. When they first adopted Ian, he had some emotional problems. And they had, what's the word I'm trying to think of? They got him help from somebody. And anyhow, I always said, well, they paid a lot of money to get help for Ian for something my mother would have knocked out of him with an apple switch. Not that I'm not condoning that now, but I got one of those one time with an apple switch, and I didn't even remember what I did, but I'll tell you this, I wouldn't do it again. When she used that apple switch on me. She believed in spoil the rod and spare the rod, spoil the child. That's from the Old Testament. I never heard Jesus say anything like that. I never read of Jesus saying anything like that.
Well, how do you want to wrap this one up? Because we're coming close on time here.
Well, I hope we all have a good new year, and I hope for peace on earth, and I hope everybody gets together and loves one another. That's my prayer. I have a whole list of people that I pray for. The people that live here and the ones that are sick and that, I'd like to see them all well and happy. So, Happy New Year, and goodbye.